Right, in today's video I'll be presenting my take on Karrthus, Tyrant of Jund. So Karrthus is a decoy commander. He's in here so I can run Jund colors and to provide air support to the tribe that the deck actually features. So what is he? A 7/7 flying hasty dragon for 7 comes into play. I gain control of all dragons, and they gain haste, so they can go smack the people I just took them from. Okay, let's get into it. What's in the deck? Okay, Woodland Cemetery. Not much to say. Committing Colossus. Still not really giving you an idea what's in the deck, but he's he's a cheat because he's a shapeshifter. So he's all creature types, but only one of them really matters. 4/4/4/4 with protection from black. And if I spend 4 each time I do that, I can double his power. So he can get very big very quickly. Priest of Titania. Now you might be thinking, I know what this deck is. Yep, Elf Tribal. 2 for a 1/1 elf. Add green to my mana pool for each elf I control. Each elf in play. Someday I really need to read my card before I make these videos. Oran Reef the Vastwood. Kind of low-hanging fruit. If it's untapped and I play enough green creatures, I can make them all bigger. Give them all that nice counter they need. Elvish Reclaimer. I understand this guy has gotten more expensive since I bought him. So I guess +2/+2 as long as I have 3 more land cards in my graveyard, which probably isn't going to happen that often. Unless I use his other ability. 2, sacrifice a land, search my life for a land card, put it in play tapped. So one of the purposes of him is to find Yevamaya, Cradle of Growth, which is key to another card in the deck. I'll tell you when I get to him. Elvish Visionary, 2 for a 1/1, comes into play, draw a card. Pretty basic. Wooded Foothills. Lilith. When I was in submarine school, I had this guy that loved this card because he had the hots for the actress that played Lilith in Frasier. And this is a pretty striking resemblance of Lilith. Can't remember the actress's name at all, but any fans of that show will probably remember. So 1 for a 1/1, tap, add black to my mana pool, take 1 damage for doing so. Oracle of Yevamaya. 4 for a 2/2, play the top card of my library revealed. I could play lands off the top of my library. I could play an additional land each turn. Thinking about taking her out because I don't want to give away information, don't want to reveal the cards, but yeah, I'll see. I'll see if she performs. She hasn't come up in a lot of games, so I haven't really seen if she's more of a hindrance than a help. It really depends on the game state at the time. So I've got Jund Basics in here. So there's my Jund Swamp. Jiraga Warcaller, 1 for 1/1 with multi-kicker 2. Every time I kick him, he comes to play with a +1/+1 encounter. And other elves I control get a +1/+1 for each counter on the Warcaller. Wirewood Channeler. 4 for a 2/2. Tap, add mana of any one color to my mana pool for the number of elves I control. So 10 elves, I can get 10 black, 10 red, 10 green, whatever I have. Coat of Arms, because it's a tribal deck, so I need to pump up the tribe. Elvish Champion, 3 for 2/2. Other elf creatures get +1/+1 and Forest Walk. So she's one of the cards that goes well with Yevamaya, Cradle of Growth. Skarg, the Rage Bits. Green-red, tap. Target creature gets +1/+1 and trample until the end of the turn. Chroma's Memorial. Pump up those elves. They all get, what is it again? Flying, First Strike, Vigilance, Trample, Haste, and protection from black and from red. A lot of abilities. I remember playing with her Chrome when she first came out. She hardly ever came out because she cost so damn much, and I wasn't good enough to figure out how to cheat her into play that reliably around the Onslaught era. But when she did come out, my god, was she scary. There it is, you have my Cradle of Growth. All lands become forests. I used to have, you have my Dryad in the deck, so I could give somebody a forest in order to attack them with my forest walking elves. But I didn't really like it because it was not an elf. It's a Dryad. Or human druid, one of the two. It's not an elf in any case. So when this came out, I got one as soon as possible for this deck. So everybody has forests, and I can attack anybody I want with my forest walking elves. Green Sun Zenith, green X. Go find a creature with cast cost equal to X, or is it less? X or less, yep. Put it on the battlefield, and then shuffle your library with this in it. Yawgmoth, you will pay for your treachery. Finish this deed. Got to wipe the board somehow, sometimes. Guiltleaf Palace. So, comes into play untapped unless I show everybody an elf, which in most cases I should be doing so. And otherwise it's a bayou. Tap, add black or green to your mana pool. Okay, now we're getting into some interesting additions to the deck. So, Glimpse of Nature, the magical Christmas land. Excuse me. Is that I have Beast Whisperer, or why does the name escape me? Guardian Project. Beast Whisperer or Guardian Project, or even both in play. And then I cast Glimpse of Nature with a learn out. So if I have Guardian Project and I cast Glimpse of Nature, every creature I cast, I'm getting 2 cards. And if I have a learn, anything 3 or less is free. I can just cast them as instants. So I was actually able to do this in some testing. I haven't had it come up in real game yet. But I drew about half my deck. And then dumped it on the field, and through Sark and Vol gave everybody haste. Of course, that was just goldfish and just testing the deck. But, yeah, that's the magical Christmas land for this deck. Okay. Heritage Druid. I bought this card shortly after Morningtide came out because I love the art. Larry McDougall was a new artist, and I just... His line work, his colors, his inking, it's just so different to the typical Magic art of the time. Him and Omar Ryan were like a breath of fresh air, harking back to the old days of Magic when they had strange artists, interesting art. It wasn't all just stylized, almost computer generated. I'm not saying that's not beautiful. Like Volkan Baga, his work is beautiful. But it's more like a fine art piece. And this is just primal. But since I had her, put her in the deck. I think she used to be worth money. I don't think so anymore. Stomping Ground. Yay! Green-red shock. Okay, here's my Jund Forest, one of them. Of course, since the tribe is elves, most of them on their own are pretty weak until I can get out a Chroma's Memorial, until I get out Coat of Arms, some other enabler. So I need some way of protecting myself if somebody does some kind of mass board wipe I can recover from. So I have this in here to regenerate all of my creatures. Somebody casts, obviously it doesn't work against Damnation or Wrath of God. Fair enough. But against Day of Judgment, against Blood on the Snow. Actually, I can't recall if Blood on the Snow says cannot be regenerated or not. I could be wrong about that. But anyway, so I need this board wipe where I can regenerate, or some kind of mass damage, I can save my creatures. High Market, it's in here for this pretty much same reason it's in any of my decks. You will not be forced to plowsharing that critical creature that you want to get rid of. I will kill it myself and then bring it back, because I'm playing black. Well-Wisher. I wish this is foil, but it's not. I like this, I like the new art. The old art was just kind of weird. Never cared for it. This is more serene. I like it. Fauna Shaman. Basically survival of the fittest on a 2/2 body. Green, tap, throw away a creature, search a library for a creature, put it in your hand. In a way, this shouldn't be in here. This is a revised Taiga. I bought a bunch of cards off my friend Ren, who was selling out. And I've got no other deck with green red except Animar. And when I bought the dual lands off of Ren, I got 2 Taigas. So I put the other one in here. It fits. I also put the Badlands in here. I could have put the Badlands in Edgar Markov, but this deck, there's something about it. It has more difficulty, it seems, getting that red, getting that black. Edgar Markov doesn't seem to have any trouble getting his red or white, his secondary and tertiary colors. Speaking of getting my other colors, Rootbound Crag. Another card I bought for the art, and I thought, I just want to play it. I want to see how it works. A friend of mine who's very into the tournament scene in Modern, he said it's not that bad. I should give it a go. So here I am giving it a go. Demonic Tutor with Suspend. Okay. Essence Warden. If I'm going to be casting onto creatures, other people might be doing the same, and I can start getting a lot of life. Or at least not dying as quickly as I would otherwise. Besson. Réfléchissons. I do know some French, but my pronunciation with a lot of the words is kind of bad. I mean, ajoutez et votre réserve on type quelconque. Really need to practice more. But I live in Czech Republic, not France. I don't get to go to France that often because of the current situation in the world in early 2022. Hopefully that ends soon and I can start visiting France again. Taunting Elf. All creatures able to block this little guy do so. Now the problem is, if he has Forest Walk, he can't be blocked. So it's a bit of a non-bow. But just a bit. Growing Rites of Idlamok. Is this my alternate art version? It is. So once I have 4 creatures, I flip it over and it becomes Guy's Cradle. Except Guy's Cradle only taps for green if you have creatures. This taps for green if I don't have any creatures and it's flipped. Otherwise, what does it do? We'll tap for a card in your library when it comes into play. Show everybody a creature from among those 4. Put it in my hand. Put the rest of the bottom in any order. Yeah, I haven't used that card much, so yes, I will have to read it most of the time until I get used to it. Wirewood Lodge. Add 1 to my mana pool or green tap. Bounce an elf to my hand. No, untap target. Bounce an elf to my hand. Untap target elf. So obviously very good at Priest of Titania. Tap, get a bunch of mana. Untap her, get a bunch more mana. Do some broken things. Smash some face. Make everybody cry. Scroll Rack. Now, as I was talking about before with the Magical Christmas Land, so if I'm casting these creatures, let's say I have a Lurn out, and I've got 2 cards that say anytime you play a creature, draw a card. So at some point, I will start running out of creatures that cost 3 or less in order to keep up the momentum. And I'll have a bunch of lands in my hand, some other spells in my hand that I won't really need at the time. And this will help take care of that. This will help put those back on top of my library, and I can draw more creatures 3 or less and keep the party going. Speaking of keeping the party going, so this is one of the ways I have of giving all of my creatures haste, which if I'm going to vomit half my deck onto the board, I don't want to just sit around and wait for somebody to cast a board wipe. I want to attack pretty quickly while the iron is hot. Speaking of the iron is hot, There's just something about this card. Shards came out, and I got a hold of one of these in foil. Probably this one. I really don't see myself having bought multiple copies of these, so this is probably the one I've had all these years. And it's just the promise of it. How much damage can I deal to somebody and all of their creatures? One time I did it for 10. I spent 13 mana, hit a guy and all of his creatures for 10. And I think I still lost that game. I can't remember. Overgrown Tomb. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and pause it for part 2. So I'll be back in a moment.